Hello, and welcome to episode 5 of Triage Trauma and Drama. My name is Matt. I'm your host. Let's dive right in. Housekeeping things beforehand. Make sure that you go ahead and hit the follow button on Spotify so you're informed of when new podcasts get uploaded. I promise I'm not having a stroke. And if you're watching this on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe, like, and follow button there so that it gets pushed out to more people. And so you also can stay up to date with videos as they go up. I'm trying to release them every Tuesday. However, sometimes I get a few more in a week, sometimes a few less. But if you subscribe and follow, then you guys will be in the know for when all that stuff pops up. This episode today, I'm just going to tell some stories of, dealing with some LGBTQIA plus patients because it is Pride Month. So happy Pride. A little bit of a warning. These stories will have mentions of unaliving oneself. So if that's going to be a trigger for you, I go ahead and suggest that maybe you go ahead and skip this particular podcast. I do not want anyone to be triggered. I don't want to get upset. So if you think that might be something that's going to upset you, then feel free to skip it. No hard feelings. I get it. The first one we're going to talk about is when me and a partner of mine got called to do what's called an interfacility transfer. Interfacility transfers are when you pick a patient up and take them from one hospital and take them to the other hospital. They're not exciting. They're pretty boring, usually very routine. Not a lot happens in them. All right. So this particular night, me and my partner had kind of getting our asses kicked the entire night. We had done an ICU transfer. We'd done a trauma transfer. I think before that, we picked up an active stroke at a nursing home. So we were kind of over the day already. And it's 12:30 at night. Now we're both tired, exhausted. We both need to pee. We both really need to eat some food, but we get called to take this patient from one hospital to an inpatient psych bed at another hospital. So we show up and my partner goes to introduce himself to the patient, get a set of vital signs, and I go to the nurse. And the nurse basically tells me that this patient's 18, which in the state I live is not considered an adult. Yeah, I know it's weird. We don't need to go there. But basically tells me that no one's been by this to see the patient the entire time they've been here. They call parents gave consent, but still no one's been by to see him, which I thought was a little odd and a little weird because usually parents my experience with my own parents would tell me that, hey, they don't like that. They'd rather, they would rather see their child off, right? Especially if they're in the middle of a mental health crisis. So we get the kid up, we get him in the back of we get him in the ambulance, and I'm hoping to myself that they don't want to talk because, like I said, it's late, everyone's tired. I'm pretty sure I smelled bad at this point. It was the middle of summer. And we start driving down the road, and he's kind of looking around, and he asked me if we do this often. And I say, well, take patients to this particular facility. Yeah, we do it all the time. It's a great facility, great staff. Like whatever you're going through, they're going to be able to help you, right? Like it's great. They're great. So he's like, well, I don't think there's a cure. I don't think you're going to help me with what I have. And so I ask him, well, what do you mean by that? Like, they can help with anything, dude. And he's like, well, no, they can't help me. They can't cure me. I'm thinking to myself, okay, well, that's an odd thing to say, but because I'm a caring individual and also incredibly curious, I ask him, I go, well, what do you mean they can't cure you? He says, well, they can't cure what I have. I said, well, what do you have? He goes, well, I'm gay. And my parents said I have to be cured, and they can't cure that. And my jaw kind of dropped, like literally like unhinged from my face and kind of dropped. And I thought to myself, what? Now I have been out for, I don't know, maybe a year at this point. And I could not fathom my parents saying I needed to be cured. I couldn't fathom anyone saying I needed to be cured. I mean, even people in my life that were not very, I don't want to say understanding, but people that were like, well, I think it's a choice. None of them said, go get yourself cured. That was not a response I got from anyone. And so I just kind of sat there, and eventually I realized, oh, he's staring at you. You probably need to respond. And I said, well, I don't think that's the case at all. You're gay. You're not broken. You're not sick. You're just gay. And he said, no, my parents said I need to be cured. Like, they're not going to accept this. I'm choosing this lifestyle. I need to be cured. All right, here's a PSA for everyone out there. No one chooses to be homosexual. No one chooses to be bisexual. No one chooses to be any part of that rainbow spectrum that people are on because that's just how they're born. You love who you love. Okay? And message to all the parents out there, which I realize I'm not a parent. I will probably never be a parent. That's probably good I'm not going to be a parent because my kids would eat junk food. My kids would swear. My kids would probably fall over stuff and break stuff. And they would definitely have screen time. But I digress. Your job as a parent is to love your child unconditionally, no matter what. Like, of all the parents I know, they know that is their one job, is to love their child unconditionally, no matter what, right? It doesn't matter if they're gay, doesn't matter if they're straight, doesn't matter if they're bisexual, doesn't matter if they're blind or deaf or have learning disabilities. Your job as a parent is to love them no matter what. That is your job. So it was mind-boggling to me that this poor kid thought that he needed to be cured because his parents said, you need to be cured. And because they said that, he was having thoughts of hurting himself, of unaliving himself. We talk a lot about words matter, the things we say matter, and I don't know what illustrates that better than this particular story. Like, you have to be careful of what you say and how you say it and who you say it to. Like, that's just common sense anymore. And I was just devastating hearing him tell me this story. And I remember thinking, my God, you need to say something. So I just finally looked at him and I go, well, I'm gay. Do you think I need to be cured? I don't think I need to be cured. I live a pretty full life. And he kind of thought about it for a second. He said, yeah, but they said I can't do the things I want to do. And I go, what do you want to do? He's like, well, I want to go into the Army. And at this point, had it been far enough and it had been a bit, but like Don't Ask, Don't Tell had been repealed. And I was like, well, go to the Army. If that's what you want to do, go do it. And he's just, yeah, I guess so. And I think he felt a little better as the trip wore on. We kept talking, kept having conversations. I think he felt a little better as the trip went on. But still, we dropped him off and we start driving back, and I'm just sitting in the passenger seat shaking my head, not believing that someone would say that to their child. And I know it happens. Believe me, I know it happens. But just the thought of that just freaks me out. The thought that a parent can say that. I mean, it just freaks me out. I'm glad that he got a chance to talk to me. I hope I did some good. I hope I didn't screw him up even more. Let's knock on wood about that. Our second story, I'm going to tell you, does not have the greatest of endings. So again, if unalive is a trigger for you, then you're going to want to skip this part of the podcast. But we were called out to a fairly affluent neighborhood in the city I worked in. It was about 3:00 on a random Friday afternoon, and we show up. The cops have beaten us there, and we go on. The cops doing CPR on this 15-year-old who's laying on the ground. Parents are standing there, both very tearful. Dad looks, I think, more pissed than sad, in my opinion. But he's clutching this bag of pill bottles. And so I'm trying to determine what happened. And parents say, we found him unresponsive. He wasn't responding. We had to break down the door. We drug him out here. He's not breathing. He turned blue, rattling off all the things that kind of happened during that particular day. And I remember thinking to myself, this is not going to end well. I can tell by looking at the patient, this is not going to end well. And the dad kind of thrusts this bag of medications at me and says he might have taken any combination of these. And in this bag are sleeping pills and like blood pressure medication, diabetic medication, pain medication, just a whole grab bag of shit that should not be taken in high doses together. That's very, very bad for you. So clearly this kid wanted to hurt himself. And one of my partners had asked, as I'm setting my stuff up to put a breathing tube in, as we're doing CPR, as we're putting IV lines in, do you know why he did this? And Dad says he came out to us this morning and we told him that wasn't acceptable and that he needed to change, or it would be better off if he wasn't even here anymore. Wasn't even here anymore. And so, of course, automatically I go, so this kid's trying to kill himself or tried to kill himself. And I didn't voice it out loud. And I know this mom's I look over at mom, she's holding a piece of paper, clutching a piece of paper, like just trembling, clutching this piece of paper. And I'm thinking to myself, well, that's probably the suicide note, but I don't ask. I have a job to do. So I get the kid intubated. We get him on the stretcher. We get him out to the ambulance. We diesel therapy it to the hospital, arrive, get him onto their trauma bed. We start helping them code him. And we were not getting him back. And I think all of us knew we were not going to get him back. And the parents are standing outside the resuscitation room, kind of looking in on us, and clearly very upset. After about 10 minutes or so, the doc calls it. Because we had been working this kid on scene for a while, and it was done, and he was blue. He was not going to improve. So the doc calls time of death. I take off my gloves and I remember walking out and I am seething with rage at this point. And if those of you who know me know that I don't exactly have a great resting bitch face or a face that conceals a whole lot. So I walk past the parents and the dad turns to the mom and says, if only he weren't gay, he'd still be alive. If only he weren't gay, he'd still be alive. Motherfucker, he'd still be alive if you weren't shit parents. So, because I was young and dumb and stupid, I wheeled around very quickly, walked over to this dad, told him to fuck off. He was a terrible parent, and that his son would still be alive if he was shown an ounce of love and caring and concern and acceptance from his parents. And then turned around and walked promptly the other direction. I do not advise doing this. I got suspended for 2 shifts because of that. But I was so pissed off because this had happened relatively close to that first story that I told, right? And I was so pissed off. I was so mad. I was so angry. And it actually was the catalyst for me signing up to be a peer counselor and doing a lot more outreach in the city I was currently living in at the time with LGBTQ plus youth. So I guess I thank him for that. And I told these stories not to make you guys feel down or to be a downer, because pride should not be a downer. But I think it's important to remember that the things we say as parents, as family, as friends make a difference. They matter. Our actions matter. And if we, especially right now, like the LGBTQ, wow, I murdered that. My rainbow, the alphabet mafia, will just say, people that are within that range, in that spectrum, are facing persecution. They're facing huge numbers of new laws that are trying to erase them. It's not great out there for them, and especially for the youth. I'm an adult. I can deal with my shit. But it's not great out there, especially for the youth that find themselves in those situations. So it's really important as healthcare professionals that we are supportive, that we listen, and that we're affirming. And if your personal beliefs don't allow you to do that, then maybe you shouldn't be in healthcare. I have taken care of a lot of people where I do not agree at all with their personal beliefs, but that's not my job at that moment in time. My job is to take care of the patient. That's my job. So I'm sorry if this was a little bit of a downer podcast this week. Next week's will be funnier. I promise. And the week after that, it might be a downer again. I'm just kidding. I don't know. Actually, no, the next 2 should be rather amusing. Hope you guys have a great week. Please keep taking care of yourselves. Please take care of each other and have a happy Pride.